welcome Aki to Metaladium Pages. It's a great pleasure to talk with you about Dreamwell, this new album. In my saddest dreams, I am beside you. Long name for an album. So, and more things relating to the metal, well, to the metal and rock in general. So we start, I think, with a common question. So, how was the band been during the last years since Modern Grotesque?
Sorry, has the band been?
So how are you? How are you? How are you in the last 2 years?
Um, Very busy. A lot of exciting things have happened. A lot of amazing opportunities. Very busy. Can't wait to get some rest, but doing really well. Um, and excited for this album to come out a week from now.
Yes, and a week ago. Okay, okay. Now with this new album, in my saddest dreams, I am beside you. This is your first ended with prosthetic records because the first two albums was released independently independently. So how was to enter to prosthetic records, and how was the receiving of the last two by yourself?
Yeah. So for the last album, yeah, we ended up having to self-release it and basically do everything ourselves. We had originally intended to work with a label, but it hadn't worked out, and kind of at the last second, we were scrambling to put together like a pre-order for Modern Grotesque, to like put all the promotional stuff together, get it up on Spotify ourselves. And so honestly, it was really surprising, given all the chaos leading up to it, to see how well to see how good the reception was. Because we were struggling just to be able to get it released properly at all. Um, so yeah, Prosthetic had reached out to us a little bit. We ended up talking to them um, around 2022 about working together on the next album, which we ended up completing a few months after that. And it's been really great. They've given us like the resources to be able to spend more time in the studio. So instead of having to like rush through everything like we did with Modern Grotesque, we could take more time for recording each of the instruments. And yeah, also just getting new opportunities to like get the music heard by other people. That's pretty exciting.
Oh, nice, nice. What are how many difference encounter by your size compared to the previous album to this new one? Because the Distant Growth Thunder was more hardcore in some ways, more personal in some ways because it was your first album. But now you have with a big label too, prosthetic record. So how many difference you can find compared to the previous one to this new album?
So was it the uh differences between the last album?
No, talking about the musical level.
Oh, okay. Um, yeah. So, um, sorry. What was it? The related to the
Okay, I will rephrase the question. So with this aspect, so what are the biggest difference that exists with this new album compared to the previous one? Much better.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. So, we wanted to compared to like Modern Grotesque, there are some elements of it we wanted to keep doing that we felt were things we'd done well. But we also didn't want to just keep writing the same album over and over again. We wanted to branch out a little bit, and we were just kind of writing organically. And it kind of just like took us in a direction where we were introducing new elements. We were writing stuff that was heavier, introducing more like elements of like metalcore and noise, like that sort of thing. But still trying to keep the components of Modern Grotesque that made it a good album.
Okay, okay. Well, I always see into the cover arts from Dreamwell that you decide to put abstract screens into the cover arts. Even this new album has a lot of abstract graphics. So, what is exactly the meaning that you give for the old cover arts in Dreamwell? And what is the exactly representation for these abstract situations in your music?
Yeah, so the album art for this new album was done by Helvetica Blanc, who's a really talented artist who's done a couple other pieces of art for artists in like metal bands, particularly. Probably most notably, they also did art for the band Victory Over the Sun for her last two albums. So if you can see the very distinctive style, but also like every piece like has like a very has some unique components to it. So for our album art for this album in particular, it depicts two figures embracing, and one of them is made out of fire to symbolize holding on to things that are actively hurting you.
Okay, okay. Well, as you can see now, we are in a world that prefers now to hear singles. That's the old way to return to hear music, because in the 40s and 50s the music spread just by singles, and now we're returning to this era to hear just singles. So for you, which song or songs completely capture whole essence textures from this new album, In My Saddest Dream?
um Yeah, it is kind of challenging for us because like we really wrote this to be an album and for listening to the album to completely capture the album experience. Um and I do think like every song has a different serves a piece in the album and like has its own unique components. I do really hope people check out the song we released as a single last week, All Towers Drawn in the Equatorial Room. I think it's like one of the strongest songs that we've written. We've had in our set for the last 2 years, and I think it like captures a lot of some of the new components that we brought to this album. But also I just hope that people listen to the whole album when it comes out next week.
Well, yeah, that is true. So talking about other, well, especially from the styles that some reviewers said about your music, some people say that it's post-hardcore. You mentioned noise, a little punk into there. So into this aspect, well, for me, you are like something like that, some post-hardcore metal experiments, noise in some ways. But for over a lot of people trying to understand what is the style, what is the correct style from Dreamwell. So for that, what can you tell us about the label of the band? For you, which is the best label to say Dreamwell plays post hardcore, Dreamwell perhaps post black metal? Who knows?
um, I think we're like we've wanted to be a screamo band that is becoming more than just screamo and becoming something where people are like, I don't even know if this is screamo anymore. That's like the only. That's kind of. I guess that's all I really hope for is to people be like, this is screamo question mark, but also not. So honestly, the ambiguity and confusion is, I think it's a sign we're doing something right and not confining ourselves to one genre or sound. I think post-hardcore is an easy thing for people to call us just because it seems like it's kind of becoming like a catch-all for like, well, this is heavy music and it's not really metalcore or emo or screamo. Um, and it, but it also, and it doesn't feel completely satisfying because it's like at this point I don't even really know. There's so many things encapsulated in that term.
Yeah. Yeah, well, one thing that you mentioned is about the meaning of screamo, because the screamo is one as an aggressive genre of emo emerged in the 90s, etc., or early 90s, well, most people know about it. But can we relate the screamo as a musical concept? Because if we related the riffs, the schemes of the musical edition of the screamo, it's more like post-hardcore or hardcore in general. So, are you agree with this term screamo when related to the emo part?
To me, like screamo almost more so feels like a community and like a scene more than like a specific sound. That's kind of been my experience being in that scene. Like there'll be things like New Friends Fest where it's like a screamo festival. Um, but within that festival, there's such a wide variety of sounds. And really, the common factor is that sense of community and that sort of like approach to music, um, which feels like a pretty inclusive approach to music. That uh, it's like all you really need is to have a lot of intense feelings. Like you don't have to be like a like masterful like instrumentalist. You just have to be passionate about what you're doing and about being real and about like playing intense music.
Hmm? Okay, okay. Well, talking about from the promotion of this new album, what kind of plans do you have for this new album? Perhaps you will embark tours, US, proposal from US, or who knows, from Latin America.
So far we have a tour planned for the beginning of November. So we'll be going to Canada and then to a couple places in the US, mostly the Midwest, and then coming back to the Northeast. And then we have a couple days with the band from Autumn to Ashes in December, where we are playing in the Northeast of the U.S. again. We're hoping that next year that we can get outside of the U.S. a little bit more, um, and hopefully play Europe and Latin America. It would be really cool to do that. It's just a lot of money for a band like us at the moment, and our best bet is kind of hoping that we're able to jump on a bigger tour as support and be able to and get the opportunity to see a lot of new places.
Okay. Well, I'm talking about especially from your career as a musician. You have a lot of bands, Bibulation, Necroplanet. You have Dreamwell, a constant knowledge of that. I'm related. Obviously, you have a lot, yeah, a guest session, obviously, and mix stuff like producer, etc. So you mastering. You have a lot of things within the music industry in general. So now with this aspect that now are a lot of people are well, a lot of music are doing their YouTube channels, creating YouTube or Patreon channels to motivate to motivate more music for them or increase the economic area for them. No, so for that, so what is your point of view as a musician for a long time? And nowadays, is good or is bad to be a musician in this scenario that the all industries are taking more money than the musician now?
Yeah, I've talked about this a few times in a few places where it's like it's so difficult to make any sort of money as just a musician. Um, Basically, every musician who is in a band like this size is working one or multiple other full-time jobs, and that's just the reality of how the industry is structured. Is that the more you grow as a band, the more people are making money off your band, while the band continues to the people in the band continue to just kind of break even. Um, and it's just like everyone who's in bands like this, everyone's so burnt out. Like all my bandmates are at work right now, and it's really overwhelming. I don't make that much money as a musician or as a producer, and it's always like I'm feeling pressure to add more work to try to get more money. Like, oh, I should try streaming more. but then it's like another thing where it's like, oh, you just got to keep doing it and struggling at it until you get to the point where you're making a lot of money, maybe. So yeah, it's extremely difficult for anybody to make it as like a freelance musician right now, and I think very few artists are making it off of just selling their music alone. They're almost always doing other things like Twitch or YouTube or Patreon or lessons, that sort of thing, where the music just kind of becomes a way to promote yourself.
Okay. Okay. Now, well, talking about this aspect of the music industry in general, as you can see now, the music in our lives, or the in majority of their lives of the people, are entered like a background. I mean like a background when they do the daily jobs, going to the job or work, going to the gym or wash the car, etc., etc. So, with this aspect, for you, where the entertainment enters in this generation that prefer more or less physical material and only takes the music as accompaniment of daily lives.
Well, it seems like there's been a big resurgence in vinyl, at least, with like digital music, and it seems like CDs have become more or less obsolete, but like vinyl and tape, both people are still buying those and collecting those, and have place value on those. In terms of what you're saying about like music is becoming like a background
Yeah.
for a lot of people, that's something I do think about a lot. Um, and I feel like the attention of the listener is kind of something I like to think about as an artist. Um, you're really competing for a listener's attention. Um, and so I think about this when I'm writing, and I really want to create attention grabbing moments, or going between moments that do kind of serve as like a background, and then drawing you back in with a big attention grabbing moment, so that you might be doing something else and you're like, wait, hold up, something crazy is happening right now. I have to pay my full attention to the music that's happening right now, and having to like break through the noise that's like in everybody's lives to fully get a listener's attention.
Mm, okay. Okay. Well, as you mentioned, the music from Dreamwell is very difficult to relate with one label. It's punk, punk, hardcore, and a lot of things happen in your music. But with this aspect, your music is very personalized in tastes and colors. It's also no, not for everyone. Depends of the people who listen to your music in this aspect. I remember, with this question, I remember when I hear the bands, obviously from the 80s or 90s, when you hear a song in the radio for them and immediately become a hit. And now there's the big bands like Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath, etc., Bon Jovi, etc. They create albums and singles that are preserved on time, so that's a good. But now with these new forms of hearing music with the digital era, especially for the playlist, as you can see now, the people are more selected with the personal tastes. So because it's not anymore a song in the radio that hit everyone, because it's not for everyone, something like that. So what's your opinion about now? The music is so personalized in these days that it's not then this not will be like the 80s or 90s when the music has 5, 6, or 7 bands, like big bands like now.
I think that it does give a lot of opportunities for people to discover new artists that they're really that they can really connect with. I do think there's something to be said for like I grew up in like the mid 2000s, and I felt like you were kind of forced to connect with whatever music you had available to you. So if it was like if somebody like gave you like a CD and it like to listen to, or like you had the MP3s on your MP3 player, and it was like, I mean, this is fine, but it's what I have, so I'm gonna listen to it like 100 times and end up finding something of value in it. I think there's something to be said for that. Like I discovered a lot of music that way. And now it's like people are there's so much music available to you that you kind of get overwhelmed by it, and only really give a chance to the artists you really connect with. But it does give a lot more artists an opportunity to be heard that might not ever have been heard by anyone otherwise.
Okay, okay. Well, Aki, the sad times arrive at this interview. I hope you enjoyed this one like me. And I love your music. Great album, by the way. Congrats on it. And perhaps you want to add something to your Latin American fans and Metalero followers.
Yeah, we really hope you enjoy the album, and we really hope to be able to tour somewhere in Latin America, if not next year, sometime in the future.